Hi everyone, McCallum Tepsich here from Keller Williams Realty, and today we'll be talking about how Airbnb is impacting the Toronto real estate market, specifically the Toronto rental market, and you'll see why in a couple minutes. But early in 2020, there were quite a few laws imposed around Airbnb. One in particular really sticks out to me, which is in order to rent a property on Airbnb, it must be your principal residence, which left a lot of owners and hosts in a tight situation where they were left with a few options, but we'll focus on two, which are: one, they could sell the property; two, they could rent the property on the long-term rental market instead of Airbnb or the short-term rental market. Now, there were roughly 5,000 properties that we were anticipating would come from the short-term rental market to the long-term rental market, which would open up a lot of properties for those looking to rent, which is great. But this all depends on how the hosts react and how they take their properties from Airbnb and what they do with them. So that number can completely fluctuate. But since COVID hit, we've started to see zero travel, or no, I shouldn't say zero, but very, very little travel, which is impacting Airbnb, of course. So hosts have decided to either rent or to sell. Now, let's focus on renting because I believe that's where a majority of these properties are headed. Let's take a look at the numbers. So there are so many different ways that you can cut it to try to understand how Airbnb is impacting the Toronto real estate market. But as I mentioned, I want to focus on renting and specifically furnished rental units in the city of Toronto. Now, you're probably wondering, why are we looking at furnished units? That's just going to decrease our pool. But really what it's doing is it's focusing on those units that are furnished, which are Airbnbs, as we know, because those properties are always furnished, or 99.9% of the time they are furnished. And what we're looking at is to try to understand how many properties that are furnished, or Airbnb, are coming from the short-term rental market to the long-term rental market. Now, in January of 2020, there were 29 new listings that were furnished. In February, there were 86. In March, there were 286. And in April, there were 402. Those are all furnished properties that were new listings to the long-term rental market. And now we have a total of 1,200 total listings that are furnished in the Toronto real estate market, which is a very, very high number. So all in all, there has been an influx in furnished properties, and we should continue to see an influx in furnished properties over the next little while. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, what does this mean for me as a renter? Regardless of if you're looking to rent a furnished unit or an unfurnished unit, you're still looking at decreased competition because there are more properties hitting the rental market as a whole. Let's take, for example, you're looking for a property that's unfurnished, which a majority of people are, let's be honest. So you're in a situation where you're putting in an offer on an unfurnished property, and you're in competition with someone who would ideally like a furnished property, but since there isn't something out there for them, they're looking at an unfurnished property. Now, you see the competition there, you with another potential tenant. Now, with additional properties that are furnished, you're going to see that potential tenant that you're in competition with, you're going to see them veer off in a different direction to the furnished property. So overall, you're going to get less competition in the rental market. All right, so you're probably questioning, why are Airbnb properties being listed for lease versus for sale? And it really comes down to asset retention. If an owner is in the position to sell a property or rent that property out and make a passive income month over month, they're going to take the latter because they can make money month over month and they're retaining an asset which they can sell for a higher value in the future. I hope you found that useful and informative. As always, if you have other questions regarding the topic, please reach out. I'm happy to discuss it further. If you are looking to buy, sell, or lease in Toronto, please let me know and we can connect and discuss future opportunities a little bit further. Give me a shout. My contact details are following.